I, Noel Ann, of divine feminine energies, Capricorn Sun, Aquarius Moon, Libra Rising, am asking Christ Consciousness only, for what energies, not divine futures, but what energies may or may not surround me finding a new building for my church. Okay, yeah, I think these two cards wanted to reveal themselves. Just put those on the flag. The pride flag. Those are my ministry charms, by the way, if you're wondering what the crosses are doing. Who am I kidding? There's no one watching. Alright, we got this as well. And what was my bottom deck? Ooh, that's interesting. Okay. It's interesting. My bottom deck is a tower, but it's in reverse. So that's bottom deck energy. It's actually been a while since I've read from this deck, so let's go to tower and see what shows up. Yeah, tower. You're resisting a necessary change in your life. You're being confronted with an important truth that may alter the course of your life, but you are refusing to acknowledge it. It's time to let go of comfortable, familiar perspectives because you're being presented with new information that changes everything. While this sort of shift can be intimidating, trust you'll move forward from this and be happier, healthier person. Okay, so this is not upright. That's what the reverse means. So it just means that I'm ignoring something. You know what I think it is, to be honest? If I had to guess, right? I think it is that I need to quit holding out hope that people from my past are going to show up all of a sudden and like cheer me on. That's probably what I would say. Yeah, I also just thought this would be a good example of how I do tarot as a Christian priestess of my own church. I just thought this would be a good example of the way to do it without violating the biblical scriptures, without addressing any other deities. If you notice, I said Christ Consciousness and Christ Consciousness only, so I am not calling upon any other deities. I'm not calling upon any ancestors. I'm not using my own personal sense. And I'm also not using it for actual divine predictions of the future. I am merely asking Jesus for what particular energies may or may not lie around this particular task. I've recently come into contact with some people who may or may not help me out with getting a church building. Potentially. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to put anything out there. But yeah, the other three cards that I got for myself are these, I believe that's the Six of Swords, and the Two of Swords, which both of these energies are kind of scary, especially paired with their tower in reverse like that. And then Page of Wands, though. Page of Wands isn't always bad. Let me read my swords energies. Upright Six of Swords indicates you've recently been through a difficult time. Oh, that absolutely. Don't let them derail you yet. That is absolutely the fact that I was homeless not that long ago. That is absolutely what that one is. And Two of Swords indicates you're in a confusing conundrum. A decision looms, but you're having trouble making up your mind. Yeah, I mean, I don't have one of those at the present moment, but I can definitely see how that's either upcoming or from recent past. And then Page of Wands, let's see. The Page of Wands represents an enthusiastic, colorful, free spirit like Iago, just as ambitious. The Page of Wands is a fierce idealist whose dreams know no bounds. This tarot card can indicate the new opportunity for you to express your creativity will present itself to you soon. That's definitely in reference to my church. my church has started to take off a lot more. Maybe the thing I need to let go of is TikTok. Like, maybe that's what I need to let go of, because I've built up like a decent fan base on TikTok, but it was mainly built up around me talking about trans issues, me doing tarot, and me making like funny skits. And now that I've shifted to a more spiritualistic goal of I'm running my own church, maybe me getting banned like that from the lives, maybe that I'm not perma-banned, but maybe that was a shift. I also just recently was able to get I'm not talking to anybody right now, but screw it. Maybe I was potentially I just recently got the ability to go live on YouTube, so maybe that's a thing that I need to quit live streaming my church services on TikTok and start just streaming them on YouTube and Facebook instead of Facebook and TikTok. Or maybe upgrade to Instagram instead of Facebook. I need to hold on to the Facebook because I've recently discovered a group of people who genuinely are interested and have been checking out my church through Facebook. So I'm going to keep the Facebook up, but yeah. But also, I talk about this on my church's page about how we don't necessarily completely reject stuff like crystals or tarot, so long as you're not practicing witchcraft with it, or calling upon other deities, or actually trying to perform genuine divination. So like this, right here. So you can still do the practice in a way that still honors Jesus Christ. And is kind of more for fun, as well as kind of a soothing conversational piece. I like to think of it as a form of prayer or meditation. Ooh, okay, these shot out. I didn't even say anything to this deck, but this is my Fallout deck. I was pulling on them for elaboration, but these two things came out before I could even say anything, so I think that, ooh, two major arcanas, and they're in order, 9 and 10. That's the Hermit and the Wheel of Fortune. Let's see what bottom deck. Ooh. So more swords energy on the bottom deck of this too. So I got 9 of swords. Oh yeah, just so you can see the artwork too. On my Disney Villains deck, this is the Tower card. It's in reverse. So upright it would look like this. This is my Page of Wands. They use Iago from Aladdin to be the Page of Wands. They use Evil Stepmother petting Lucifer for the 6 of Swords, and most of the other swords. She's the evil stepmom from Cinderella. Then 2 of Swords is just a depiction of 2 different swords. I think they're specifically like magic swords, though, from Disney. And then my Fallout deck, if you know who this guy is, he's the Hermit. What's his name? I want to say it's Virgil. Yeah, I believe it's Virgil from Fallout 4. And then Mama Murphy is the Wheel of Fortune. I think is fitting. And then they call their swords steel, like the Brotherhood of Steel, but yeah, that's 9 of steel right there. But yeah, so the Hermit and Wheel of Fortune, though, which I was thinking about using this deck for elaboration, but I did not end up, like, saying it or anything. Those cards all just came out, so I'm just going to check those cards. If you're reading this guidebook, you always want to use a specific guidebook for specific decks, because they all have different personalities. I've always said this about my decks, too. The Disney Villains deck reads really nice. It's a nice person, usually. 9 times out of 10. Even the cards that usually indicate like bad fortunes, it'll always be followed with like a little compliment or like a little, like it'll be like, but don't worry, you'll pull through, or something like that. So this deck's a very nice deck, the Disney Villains deck. Not that the other decks are not nice decks, but the way that the Disney Villains deck reads and translates is it's a very light and positive vibes deck. I don't know if you know about Bing, like the search engine Bing, where it has like the Ask Bing AI thing, and there's the creative, balanced, and precise. The way I like to see my 3 decks, because I have 3 decks, I have a Disney Villains deck, I have this Fallout deck, and I have a Skyrim deck. The way I read them is, I would think the Disney Villains deck would be like the creative option. Like, it's going to be like, oh yeah, fluffy. And then like the fallout deck is the balanced option. It's not entirely negative, doom and gloom, but it's also definitely not entirely positive. Like, it definitely has some more realistic readings of the cards. But the Skyrim deck is the precise. It's like, if it's a bad card, it's like, you're doomed. You're gonna die on your quest. Like it's like, but then if it's positive, it's like, oh yeah, you're going to be rewarded or whatever. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna read the fallout deck contents. For 9 and 10. Throughout his isolation within the glowing sea, Virgil reflects on the harm he caused by forcing innocents to become supermutants. Now it is the time to reflect on both the achievements and mistakes of your past. Contemplating your experience will lead you to greater understanding. Likewise, be sure to consider the advice of those more experienced. That is absolutely something I have been continuing to do, especially since becoming an ordained minister, but extra specifically just since I've started this journey in general, since I started transition, since I went to a psych ward for a little bit, briefly, all that, after my failed trigger warning, after my failed suicide attempt, which was fairly recent. It was right before I got ordained, because I fell into seminary work, right after that. It was, a new thing that I found to, live for, I guess. But I definitely am in a hermit phase. Definitely have been in a hermit phase for a while. I don't really hang out with people. I went to the festivals with my best friend, Ali, but I don't normally hang out anymore like I used to. I go outside, but I go on a walk. I don't go outside oh yeah, I'm gonna go party. I definitely for some reason that song by that Riley person, I feel sober at this party. I don't know if that's whatever. I don't know if there's any controversy around that or not, but I've been listening to that song lately, and I definitely feel like that. Looking back on when I used to party all the time to just numb myself and stuff, I'm like, dude, honestly, getting crazy under the influence at parties is not even for me. I'm talking to no audience right now, but I think I'm gonna upload this. So, yeah, call me a kooky crazy lady. But Wheel of Fortune, upright. Mama Murphy sees good fortune in your future. Look forward to a stroke of good luck or sudden success. However, it is always best to be prepared for the unexpected, even when it brings us good tidings. Good fortune can be increased by our preparations. That is a good sign, but the 9 of Steel, okay, because we had some swords, we had some swords from the last deck, and now we got more swords here. So that 9 times out of 10, that means 9 times out of 10, that means something. Your power armor has shut down, and you are left in the midst of battle. This burdens you carry have you feeling hopeless and anxious. Know that your struggles and feelings are valid. Try to take care of yourself in this troubling time. That is definitely recent past energy there. I've talked about it. I literally was homeless for a while. I lost access to my HRT. I still have my T blockers and stuff. I just recently got them back. I just went to Planned Parenthood. Amen for Planned Parenthood, by the way. People who attack them because they also happen to provide abortions can just shut up, because they provide such a good service to the community in general. And I'm going to be full admittance there. I wasn't hardcore anti-Planned Parenthood ever, but my old male mask was definitely way more conservative than I am now. I'm still not necessarily a total progressive leftist 100%. I would probably fall into the progressive category though if someone did a political chart on me. But I was definitely more conservative because of my fundamentalist Christian upbringing and all that. And I remember one time, and it wasn't even a Republican thing, it was a libertarian petition from the argument of freedom of taxes, and it was we should defund Planned Parenthood unless people vote to have it funded by their state or whatever. And I remember I signed that petition when I was I think I was 19 or 20. I wasn't even that old. I was still basically a kid. And you know why I consider it basically a kid? I worked in psychology, and it was at a youth center, and we treated anyone who was under 25. So yeah. But like, the like whole idea of like of that, like I did that, and I was even saying, I was like, it's not because I think that like all abortion should just be abolished overnight or anything. I was like, but I just think that they have a point about taxes, right? Like that was my whole argument. And I remember that. And I remember how full circle everything went for me quickly. Like I came out publicly. I remember I went to my first Pride after coming out. And it was like this super freeing experience. But um, I actually signed up and joined like the Planned Parenthood like donor fund program, because it was like the day after, I think the day before or a couple days before Pride was when like the Roe v. Wade ruling came in a couple years. This was like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 2 years ago. And I was like this. It was like this universal correction of like, after that just happened, which is this horrible thing, right? Especially we saw the results, like the 10-year-old in Ohio story, stuff like that. Like the laws that they're making are now insane laws. Um, Roe v. Wade definitely was the compromise. We definitely didn't need to improve it. I used to be one of those people that was like, well, technically, we should leave it up to the counties and the cities within the counties, and then also make it illegal to like travel and like, like all this stuff. Like I used to have this weird, like nuanced opinion on it, but like, and I do also want to disclose, like, from a moral perspective, as an individual and without casting judgment on anyone, I do think that, like, a non circumstantial procedure, in my opinion, is morally wrong in most cases. Um, but I do think that legally stuff should be, I think it should be accessible how it was, because the problems that got revealed really quickly after they abolished it are so, so bad. Um, the um but yeah, but I remember it was like this universal course correction of like, I used to have like this nuanced take and like be like that, and then this full course correction right after it was abolished, this opportunity to join to join the organization presented itself to me, and I took it. I just remember thinking in my head like, this is balance. Like I remember that was my thought that popped in my head. It was like, this is balance for me. Like this is a rebalancing of scales for me. um and so I did it. I joined, and I was a donor for a while. Then I wasn't able to afford doing that anymore. I randomly lost my job, and stuff like that happened. And y'all know the story. Well, I don't know. I say y'all know the story. Y'all probably don't know the story because my TikTok audience knows a lot more about it probably than y'all do, or definitely my church parishioners do. I have like over a dozen people who tend to tune into my church sermons, but the like the entire like process of that, I ended up, eventually homeless, all that. I went through this entire thing. But yeah, like the uh I don't even remember how I got on this rant, or not a rant, but on this like conversation about Planned Parenthood. But yeah, oh yeah, because they're who provide my hormones now. They're the reason why I'm not going to go into hormone shock from not having access to my hormones. Um, so yeah, they provide a great service to the community. I couldn't get medical help from community health clinics. I can picture people already, if anybody even sees this video, being like, "What about CHCs? They don't have access to a lot of stuff. They don't do that. Not even just hormones. Like they're not that resourceful. Actually, I discovered when you're actually in need, like actually like homeless and like stuff like that. Um, YWCA, I'm not gonna try to knock them down completely, but I mean they don't take in people as much as people would like to believe they do. And Planned Parenthood doesn't provide housing, and YWCA I don't think provides medical services, but it's just a thing that I'm saying, like, of all of the resources I tried to use that were like charity resources, the only one that actually came through for me, like that actually provided real results, was Planned Parenthood, is my point. So people who go off about, oh, they're ungodly and they're doing all this, like, y'all don't even know. Because in that world, they're probably the most effective source of, like, charitable access to healthcare available right now, at least in the area I was in when I was literally homeless. So that's just one of those things, and God does that to people. God puts people on. I almost feel like when I was homeless and when I was trying to be specifically in the psychology field, the way I was in the psychology field, I almost think that God put me in the position I was in, maybe to be like Jonah and the whale. Like maybe he was trying to call me to ministry work and I just kept ignoring it. And a huge part of that was from religious trauma, from being treated poorly by my religious biological father, we'll call him. And I mean, I don't even know if my other two brothers experienced the same level as I did, because like they're not gay or trans or anything like that. But like it genuinely like jacked me up like a lot. Like I had to I talked in psychotherapy about my father for like a while, man. um and I tried so hard to get him to listen to me too, man. And he just does not care. He just does not care. He disagrees with anyone being gay or trans. He thinks it's either a demonic possession, an attack from the devil, or like a disease, or that it's a choice that people do to rebel. Like he literally, that's how he classifies it. That is literally how he classifies it. And he tries to act like sympathetic, like, oh, I just wasn't patient with him. That is not true. That is not true. That is not true at all. I sent that person, if he ever says that this is untrue too, and I find out, I will publish the receipts. I have text messages logged in my phone. He literally, like, I've sent him so many resources, like so many. And he, of course, tried to pull that thing of, I don't know where those sources come from. Are they Christians? Like, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to find you biblically sourced resources. And I did that. I highly doubt that he even actually watched them. I highly doubt that. He's probably telling everyone a sob story about me, like just turning on him, and I hate him now. And listen, I don't hate him now. He's just dead to me now. Like I just don't consider him my actual father anymore. Like it's not like that's not holding on to a grudge. That's not me saying I can't forgive him. It's that he is just right now living with a hard heart. And it's like Pharaoh was, nothing I do is going to change him. And it got to a point where I started getting progressively more, I guess, aggressive in my thought process towards talking with him. Becoming an ordained minister and studying at seminary did nothing. I didn't do that for him anyways. I did that for me. And I did that because I felt God called me to it. But it did nothing to sway him. Him knowing that his own kid is a transgender woman did nothing to sway his bigotry and hatred. And he got mad at me and tried to play victim, like, you called me a bigot. And it's like, he is a bigot. He 100% is a bigot when it comes to the rainbow people. And I'm not saying that to be wrongfully disparaging of him. It is an accurate critique of him as a person, as a human being. He is bigoted towards queer people. 100%. He is bigoted towards queer people. 100%. He hates us. He hates us. He 100% hates us. He says he loves us, but it's only if we conditionally go back in the closet and pretend to be straight in public and pretend to be cisgendered in public and follow his conservative version of the Bible. Yeah, he doesn't care. He does not care. about queer people. He cares about them in the way of he thinks that they all need to quit being queer and come to Jesus, and that's the only way for them to come to Jesus. And outside of that, he thinks that they're all disgusting. He's used the words disgusting to describe queer people before. Several times. Still to this day, he does that. It's a known fact about him. Everyone that's ever interacted with him, like on a serious level, like on a familial level, everybody knows it about him. He hates queer people. 100%. And I'm not saying that to wrongfully judge him. I'm saying that because that's how he is as a person, genuinely, honestly living his life. He hates queer people. I don't know if he had something happen to him as a kid. I don't know if maybe he has some repressed thoughts of his own. I have no idea. But for whatever reason or another, he hates the LGBTQ plus movement as an entirety. He hates LGBTQ plus people. He acts like he doesn't, but he does. His whole Ned Flanders act is the side of the coin he shows the world. He used to hit us as kids. He beat me one time for watching The Dark Knight, of all movies, because he thought that Heath Ledger killed himself because he was possessed by a Joker demon. He's not a good person, like in actuality. Yeah. He talks about like sexual morality, but he lives in sin right now with his current partner. He hasn't criticized my older brother for having premarital relations with people. I could say other things, I'm not going to. But yeah, no. It did nothing. But I feel like that whole process was putting me in the belly of a whale. I think it was like, yeah, you can't stay at home. You can't stay there. You have to go out on your own. And now I'm here. And what God has in store for me is what will happen. Wow, this like little quick fun tarot sesh turned into a trauma dump real quick. But yeah. Alright, well, this was a positive tarot reading, I'll say that. That was definitely a positive tarot reading. Definitely will say that. That was a good, positive reading there, for that, so, that's why I also do this too sometimes. It's therapeutic to a degree. If you notice, I didn't address any other deities, I didn't do anything like that, and yeah, so it's stuff like that. Like practices like this, for instance, are not necessarily explicitly banned in my church. That's why the name spiritualism is in it. We don't actually try to convene with the dead, outside of like Jesus, but he's eternally alive. But yeah, it's that's where the name comes from. We don't necessarily ban alternative practices like this, but it's not like. It is not like necessarily new age, though. It's not like we're doing actual psychic work. It's not like we're practicing magic. It's not like we're doing anything like that. Like I said, I almost see it as like a meditation sometimes with God, because when I'm talking to him for myself and not for other people, I almost see it as like a meditation with God. And the way I'm trying to interpret the cards through Christ Consciousness, like I'm talking about, which I discovered that term from the spiritual community. When I was actually doing my own deconstruction of my faith. I was considering leaving the faith as a whole. So before anyone freaks out and goes, oh, you got deluded by this or whatever. No, I almost became I was heavy on the fence between converting to either Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, or just being an agnostic. I discovered the world of spiritualism and spirituality that wasn't necessarily just tied to the Bible. And it was actually people that I met from that community who actually helped guide me to my path back to Christianity. I never fully left the faith, but they helped me stay on that path and not leave Jesus. So say what you will about New Age type people, it was those people that actually helped me back to my path. For some reason, Keith Green popped in my head. I know that he has had a similar backstory when he was alive. He started off as a New Age hippie guy, and then he got saved. And though I was hardcore fundamentalist Christian and then kind of became more of a secularized, still practicing, but kind of a more secular Christian, and then came out and experienced horrible things. And I mean, I experienced horrible things before I came out, but experienced even more after I came out. Deconstructed my faith because of how much I had been brainwashed by my sperm donor that being queer would forever damn me to hell, no matter how I sliced it. And yeah, it really hurt me, and I almost left the entire faith. But God willing, I didn't. I met this person. They're on my Instagram actually. Their name is Miss Master Fox. They're the people who gave me those glasses that some people know me for on here, which I talk about all the time. 5DI glasses. Those are their product. They gave me a great deal on them because they know me. Like we're mutuals. We're friends. We're internet friends, but we're friends. And they introduced me to the concept of Christ Consciousness. They introduced me to the concept of like spiritualism that doesn't necessarily make you leave Christianity, even though they're not a Christian themselves. They don't really ascribe to religion in general, but and then through that pathway, I found elements of connecting with Jesus through kind of more alternative methods, but still only addressing Jesus, still not practicing witchcraft, still not actually attempting to do divination. But I found a way to still meditate with God that was less like triggering for me and less like traumatic for me. And one of those ways was tarot. And then I found Pastor Karen on TikTok, and she is an out and proud, like me, she's an out and proud trans woman who is also an ordained Christian minister. Her ordainment, I don't think she still has good standing in her church. I think they fired her after she came out as a woman. Not like immediately after. She kept her status for a while. I remember when she first found out that they let her go. It was after I think the international congress of it, I think they all met or something, and they had decided that they weren't going to allow queer people to be ministers anymore. And so she got her note that she wasn't allowed to be there in their thing anymore. But I think her ordainment still is valid. Like, as in, I think her ordainment is still legal, but she just doesn't have a letter of good standing in the church anymore. So I think if she wanted to, she could totally start her own church. She does sermons like I do. She does sermons online. She is not a spiritualist like that. She's a, hardcore, Bible-loving, God-fearing woman. I credit a lot to God working through her, to getting me back onto the path to accepting myself. I actually remember I had interacted with her a few times. I had been praying heavily with God. I mean, praying to the point where I was weeping. And it was very like, hang on, I'm taking a sip of my coffee. It was very, like healing. I remember it was Easter. It was my first Easter since coming out, and I felt like a bad Christian, but it wasn't like a conviction. It wasn't a spiritual or soul level conviction that I was feeling. It was like a trauma conviction. It was like I kept thinking about how my sperm donor would read the Bible verses about Jesus' resurrection every year, and stuff like that. And I went on like a really long walk, and I remember praying and praying and praying. I was like, God, give me some type of sign, like that I should stay, like in your grace. And that Easter Sunday, Pastor Karen was live streaming her sermon, and I tuned in and I prayed with her, and it was a great experience, and it kept me with the Lord. So I felt like the longer, but I still kept, staying very secularized. I was very scared of traditional church because of how hardcore fundamentalist I was raised. And yeah, I feel like every wrong thing that happened to me was something that God meant to happen, like Jonah. I think he had this planned for me. So whatever hardships I encounter will be what I encounter. Like, whatever hardships they may be. I think I'm going to close my tarot decks. Nobody tuned in. I think I'm going to upload this, though. I think this was a good kind of natural testimony that came out. Yeah, I'm going to cleanse my decks, though. I'm a firm believer in that ritualism of it. Thank you for your guidance through Christ Consciousness. I now cleanse you for potential future readings. And then I blow on it. So I go like, you don't see my mouth, but that's what I did. It just gets off residuals. Thank you for, this is my other deck. Thank you for your energies through Christ Consciousness. I now cleanse you for potential future readings. And then I'm going to cleanse my Skyrim deck, even though I didn't use it, just because I touched it, and I don't want any residual energies to seep in. So, thank you for coming out. I now cleanse you for potential future readings. Okay, so I'm putting my tarot decks away. Yeah. I am going to flip the camera. There we go. Yeah. I, believe it or not, that was actually my front camera. The way I had my camera set up, it worked better to have the front camera set up that way. So that's what I was doing. I do, if you guys knew the setup behind my live streams, you would realize that it's so, like, kind of like trailer park, like, I'm, like, stacking little pieces of cardboard boxes and stuff up so that I can prop up my phone, like, instead of using a real phone stand. Man. But I find ways to do it every time. Every time I do. Like, for instance, I got banned from TikTok, and I wouldn't have been able to live stream my church sermon on TikTok. But I'm going to be able to live stream my sermon on YouTube. So I think I'm just going to do YouTube and Facebook instead of YouTube and, instead of Facebook and... Instead of Facebook and TikTok, I think I'm just going to do Facebook and YouTube. Because my Facebook audience is very slowly but steadily growing. I have like 19 followers on my page now on that, which is like a decent amount, over a dozen. I have some people, not that many on the Facebook page, but I have some people who have commented and interacted with my posts on there. But I have people from the Facebook circuit, though, who have tuned into my YouTube channel and left comments there and said that, they were from, like, the Facebook group. So it's growing, Slow growth is still growth. Just to be clear on that. But yeah, putting all these away. But yeah, and then if you noticed, like my setup, it's like that. I just put my little pride flag here. It's not to worship the pride flag or anything. I just thought it was cool. It made it look a little bit more cool. And then those are my ministry charms, if you notice them. I usually wear those like when I go out now. I got them through my ministry, but they're technically, they are just cross necklaces, but I like to consider them like my clergy wear. So I usually wear them when I go outside, around my neck. I like to think of it as like my, it holds me, I find that it holds me more accountable in my actions when I'm outside, so I don't like lose my patience or whatever. Whenever I find myself getting angry, I look down at there and I go, you know what? I am a priestess of a Christian church. I can't lose my cool like that. That makes God look bad. Like, which is good. It's good for my discipline. It's been very good. I've been able to become calm in a lot of situations where I would not have been calm in the past. So that is another big step for me. I find myself figuring stuff out a whole heck of a lot more than I used to. And yeah. So, that's all goody in the hoodie. When this live stream took a turn, I thought I was going to be doing tarot, and that maybe someone might tune in while I was doing tarot for myself, and then it turned into like a weird spiritual moment. So, there we go. All right, God bless and walk in love, peoples.